Dear friend, I am writing you from a cafe. I am enveloped by the scent of coffee, the chatter of the other guests, the baristas, and that of my friends. I don't think I know what friendship means. I could count the amount of friends I have on less than one hand. Quality over quantity though, right? I'm not so sure about that anymore either. Turns out I got it wrong all these years. Whoa, it's the socially inept 24-year-old about to tell you all about friendship and how to do it right. But in all seriousness, most of the things I'm going to be talking about here might be completely self-explanatory and self-evident. I've just been struggling with this topic of friendship for my whole life because I'm 24 years old and there's only like 1 year left until my prefrontal cortex pops into position. Something's gonna happen. No, but I'm still figuring it out. I've taken probably longer than average to figure it out. Bear with me, maybe you can take something from this. I hope so. I hope it can give you some comfort and some understanding if you've been struggling with it as much as I have been. I have here my cuppa, literally, it's called cuppa, cup of tea with milk and honey and cookies. And if you see me fidgeting, I'm probably going to be knitting. So if you have some creative project that you'd like to be doing, go ahead and join me. I always like doing that when I watch YouTube videos, so just thought, why not invite you to do that and then we can do it together. So today I'm going to be talking about how I basically became a nice guy when it comes to friendships, and with nice guy, I mean the phenomenon usually of guys that when they date, they tend to be really nasty as soon as they notice that the girl doesn't have any sort of romantic or sexual interest in them because they feel like they're owed something. And I noticed very recently, unfortunately, that I had a similar kind of nasty, bitter opinion about other people and how they owed me companionship when really they don't. And that was really sad to notice, and I'm happy that I'm kind of making sense of my life now and hopefully end up hurting myself and other people less. I've always been a realist. I've always been a conflicted, hopeless romantic, but most importantly, I've been a lonely idiot. Sure, the realist part of me would like me to have fewer friends than 10 fake ones, but what does fake really mean? Somewhere along the line after my first friends turned out to be my bullies, which also only occurred to me recently, after I tasted the jealousy of never being the best friend and never managing to relate to others in the same way that they just seem to innately be able to with as much ease, I was just completely bitter. Fake then didn't just mean people who were inauthentic or who only pretended to like me, but it was also people who liked me. Let that sink in. It was people that liked spending time with me, but then they would go their separate ways after. The audacity of you to not bind yourself to me until our hair turns from pepper to salt, and how dare you not return all the niceties that I am myself handing out so freely. How dare you have your own life, your own interests, and not make everything about me. No platonic ring on my finger? Not worth my time. And this, my friend, is how you become a friendship nice guy. Of course, I'm playing all of this up because now that I'm realizing it, it is ridiculous. I know that this behavior is horribly hurtful. I've been on the receiving end of it just by me acting it out, and I can't believe the discomfort at best that I've caused other people with my bitterness. But it's important to me to kind of play it out like this just to see, how ridiculous it was. Misguided and sad, but ridiculous and hurtful. Back then, I told myself that the kind of friends I had would probably stay up with me until 3 a.m. to party, but probably weren't the type to come when I would call them in the middle of the night crying at 3 a.m. If I was not invited to a group hangout, or if God forbid they had other friends that they told me about, they did not seem worth my investment. I was seeing friendships as entirely transactional. I give you something, usually I wouldn't even know what things of value I had to offer my friendships, so I would always feel at a deficit. They would hopefully give me emotional support and companionship, and what would I be giving them? I'm sure I had value, I just didn't see it because I always felt so urgent in my pursuit of friendship. I'll get back to that later. I needed to be needed, and people who had other people didn't need me. They had other options, so what would possess them to want to spend that time with me? Something about people that didn't seem to be plagued as much socially as I was made them feel really distant and unrelatable, unreachable in a way. The thing is, maybe they would have been. I just never really gave people the chance and the option to show me that they could be good friends, that we could be good friends. So in a desperate attempt to find only the best of friends, that one person that sticks with me through thick and thin, through everything, I devalued everyone who could have been a friend. As simple as that sounds. And in doing so, set myself up for so many hurtful relationships and patterns that I'm still trying to iron out now. Back then, I didn't know that it was healthy to have options, to not be dependent on one person to make yourself feel better, that it is better to be auto-dependent, meaning being dependent on yourself to take care of yourself, and knowing that your well-being does not depend on one singular person, but really anyone that is willing and safe enough to want to help you. So I'm sure that for me, this behavior goes hand in hand with my autism and borderline personality disorder diagnoses. And for a while, these labels gave me some sort of fake reprieve because I could sort of hide behind them and go, oh, it's just how it is, and people need to start, changing to accommodate for me. And in a way, I see that that is true. I do think people need to be more aware of disorders. People need to be more welcoming and educated in general. But in the end, if I am wanting something, I can't wait for people to do the work for me. And so I just noticed that this was not a healthy way for me to live my life, and I started changing. I'm not saying that having real friends is bad, by all means. I will always be looking for people that I can connect deeply with and call soulmates and all of that. But I think in this day and age, especially with our internet interweave, we tend to be so interconnected and lonely at the same time. And because of that, I now believe that maybe it's better having anyone that is safe, that likes you, that you like back, that even if all you both do is just add a little bit of lightness and laughter to each other's lives, that is good. That is essential even. We are social creatures. I've had my middle school depressed. Oh God, I was depressed in middle school. I had my middle school depressed. I don't need other people. I'm going to just focus on my studying and basically not talk to anyone phase. I was miserable. It didn't help. Sure, I had less quote-unquote drama in my life, but it still continued inside of my head, and I had nobody to talk to about it. It was not better. You're not better off alone. You need people. So if you have anybody that's good, keep looking. I'm sure that there's going to be people out there who are also looking for you. So as I've mentioned before, I used to go into my relationships with a really strong sense of urgency, always on the lookout for people who might be able to catch me should my mental health dip below baseline again, as it used to, as it probably always will. So in a misguided attempt for connection, I would always try and lay everything out to the person that I was meeting from the get-go. I told myself I didn't have time for small talk, that it was confusing and exhausting, and that it didn't have enough substance. Flat, bland, boring. It would be much more efficient to tell everyone everything in a nutshell and then just wait for their judgment, right? To an extent, I still agree with my opinion on small talk, but I would say that my palate is a little more refined. I would say that small talk is a social appetizer that we can make good use of. Small talk lets you share little nibbles of yourself, like those little pieces of bread and cheese that you can find at the market and try before you buy the whole thing. Yeah, it might be better to give them a little taste than give them your whole fridge, the leftovers, the milk, that thing in the back that's been molding that you've been avoiding. Yeah. This is not to say, of course, that we're indigestible in our wholeness, quite the opposite. I just think that making yourself digestible to, at this stage, a stranger, if you're just meeting new people and looking for friends, going out and trying out a new hobby, or just showing up to specific places regularly, like the gym, and meeting people regularly through that, it means that you can keep yourself more safe and sane. Because I no longer share everything right from the get-go, it sort of helps with the phenomenon that I've encountered where I would get out of this social situation and feel really bare, probably because I just hadn't really figured out everything yet, haven't really processed everything, and frankly just been trauma dumping to somebody that may not have been in the space to receive me as gently as I was hoping they would. And so not spilling the tea, not spilling everything can sort of help you not lose your mind, not give away things that you're not ready to share yet. Back then, I didn't have a therapist, I didn't have a support system, so I did feel the need to share things. I was really struggling with all the weight that was on me. And making yourself digestible can also mean gauging whether the other person really aligns with you authentically, and then adjusting the closeness accordingly. If you can move on from small talk to something a little more personal, talking about your dog, that you enjoy tea and cookies and knitting. I'm just looking at my table. I've already mentioned all of these things. I'm a very simple person at the end of it. Give me something to do with my hands. Give me something artsy. I have not started this, by the way. I've just been fumbling around with this ball like a cat. I'm very easy to please. Sorry, tangent. What I was trying to say is you can gauge the closeness accordingly by how the other person reacts to you. Sounds completely self-explanatory. I did not get it. I hope you get it. Good job for you if you do. Good job, really, because I didn't. I'm also just wondering, like, what the rush is now, because back then I think I struggled a lot with not really seeing a future for myself, but now that I am generally feeling more content with my life and more like I am active in it, less passive, that things are just happening to me that are out of my control. I finally have tools to take care of myself. I finally want to stay. The only thing that I now have to do is actually have some standards when it comes to relationships and not subscribe to this beggars can't be choosers idea anymore, because there's no reason for me to beg. I have every right to choose who I'm around. I'm allowed to have options just like other people do, and I get to choose who I want to invest my energy into. I get to choose to be happy. Only I can make that happen, and I'm sure that there's people out there who are ready and willing and elated to help make that happen with me. My partner is one of the people that I would genuinely call friend without even questioning it. Over the holidays, we reflected on our relationships, and they brought something to my attention that put some things into perspective for me, and they were like, so usually people tend to be really casual about friendships, you know? And I was like, huh? Casual friendship, I think, is something that I was aware of but didn't really process. And then it made sense because I got other people's intentions all wrong. If you look at me, I'm here writing in my little journal pages upon pages of what I want my relationships to look like, the kind of friendships I'd like to have. There's always this recurring idea of commitment. I want people to be there with me and hopefully stay. Of course, those relationships can also fade over time, but it's the wish of commitment that's important to me, like the intention of it. I've always had the idea that, well, aren't friends supposed to be the people who stick with you through it all no matter what? In a way, there's even a sort of romance that I attribute to friendship. Like, imagine wanting someone so bad you write pages upon pages about them without even having met them. Call it romance, call it desperation. I still believe that friendships are the most romantic of relationships in a way, because friendships are a bond that goes beyond lust and allows intimacy without any expectation, if you are not a friendship nice guy. In conclusion, I think that there is still barely a casual bone in my body. I think I will always be very passionate about all relationships that I find myself in. They are intense and such a good learning opportunity. But I do want to welcome the idea of the fleetingness of friendship, the idea that not everything has to be super deep for it to mean something. I want to soften in general and just let go and make peace with the fact that I was a nasty, nasty boy when I was younger. I hope that this sort of either just helped you get to know me, which is also cute. In a way, one might argue that I'm still doing the same thing, telling strangers about the intimate workings of my brain on the internet and just, you know, hoping that something happens. But yeah, either it helped you get to know me, or maybe you noticed patterns in yourself that you'd like to change, and maybe this is just confirmation. In general, I hope you felt held. I hope this was a comfy little video. And yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you again soon. Bye.